Hi, everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new live stream, and welcome to Moscow, Russia. If you don't know me, my name is Russell. I'm the channel creator of Traveling with Russell, the channel that you're watching. If you're watching for the first time, welcome to a live stream. It's a little bit different from a recorded video, of course, and something that you might be watching from the playlist of the channel. This is a lot more interactive. You're more than welcome to type things in the chat and perhaps let me know where you're from. Also, you can let me know if you can see me and hear me nice and clearly. I'm doing this a little bit later in the evening in Moscow. So depending on where you are in the world, it may be morning, noon, afternoon, evening, good night. So yeah, welcome everybody. I do have a habit of not scheduling these very well, and that's very normal. So excuse me for being unscheduled normally they're later in the evening Moscow time like this, usually this time or a little bit earlier, excuse me. So yeah, I'm here. We do also have a few people who have joined early, which is nice, and a few likes. So thank you so much if you put a like on the video or a thumbs up. I'm not sure which is the correct saying for it, so one or the other. And I thought today we would just talk about something very simple and easy, and perhaps it gives you a bit of an understanding around the word typical. And yeah, basically in my words or what I think it is. So yeah, I'll read through the comments as well. I do like to make sure everybody gets a little bit of a shout out who is typing in the comments. There is quite a lot of people who like to be behind the scenes and some people who want to be here in the chat. So yeah, if you want to support the channel in any way, there is a few different options on how you can do that. Firstly, you can watch videos. That's completely free. It costs you nothing. You can like videos. That's just a click of your mouse or your thumb, whichever way you're doing it. You can write comments on videos, either new ones or past videos. That's always nice. There is a lot of comments every day, and it's hard to keep up with them. So I'm sorry if I don't get to everybody's reply of a comment. That was always my goal when I started the channel. It's nearly impossible to do that now. Even if I spend at least an hour a day answering comments, I still don't get through them. But I am trying to catch up. If you want to support the channel and shout me a bus ticket or a train ticket somewhere or lunch, there's a few different options wherever you might be in the world. There is what's called super chats or super stickers, which you can do on the live streams. If you're ever watching a video at 4 in the morning under the covers, or you're watching me on the train going home from somewhere, you can also do what's called a super thanks on a video that's playing anytime. Basically, it's a donation on the video that you're physically watching, which is not a live stream. That's an option. The other one, if you're doing it during a live stream, is what's called donation alerts. I can't put it up on the screen, which some people can. I'm using a different software, so it's not so easy to do that. But I can see them and I can read them out. If you want to type something there, lots of people do like to be anonymous, and I get a lot of anonymous donations there, which I love and I don't like. So that's completely up to you. I did notice that I did notice that David is here, who is part of the very famous Traveling with Russell Telegram chat. And he's posted the link there to Telegram. If you don't know what Telegram is, it's a messaging app or application, very similar to the way WhatsApp works. So if you've used WhatsApp and you've heard about Telegram, then it's very similar. It's actually more encrypted. And if you're worried about anyone reading it, it's not possible. There is still a bounty from the creators of Telegram that no one's ever been paid out for being able to hack Telegram, believe it or not. So I think it got quite famous recently for the guy getting detained in Paris. I think he's now on home detention. I think he is. I don't know what happened to him really, but he's still out and about. So yeah. Dirk, hello. How are you? to say hello to. Yeah, so if anyone does want to support the channel, none of the money really goes to me buying, gold chains and fancy watches. It goes back into the channel pretty much to create more content. It allows me to buy nice cameras or microphones or things like the streaming equipment that I'm using here. And otherwise, it goes to me being able to go out and film more videos and do YouTube as a thing, if that makes sense. Dirk, hello again. Sorry, I missed just saying hello there. Adequate Xiaomi guy. I did remember your name. I keep looking at the names in Russian, and then I kind of skip if I'm reading it correct or not. So yeah, also a long-time follower of live streams. Thoughts on Mike Redbar doing an investigation into your past? I'm not sure who Mike Redbar is. So I'm guessing he might be a YouTuber. I'm not sure. There's not a lot of past, I guess, unless you find my other YouTube channel. But then it's really, the other YouTube channel is really more of a information channel. It's not really about me, that other channel. So I guess maybe you can tell him. I don't know. Be interesting what he comes up with if he does something about me. I don't know who Eddie. I don't know who Mike Redbar is. I guess I should look him up, shouldn't I? I don't like doing things while I'm doing other things, so I'll look it up afterwards. Plain and simple in Missouri. I hope all the weather's okay for you over there. There's some crazy news being shown here and online of crazy weather in the United States at the moment. So I don't 100% know where it is and what's been going on, but some pretty crazy weather. And it's raining in Italy. From a rainy Italy. Today was blue skies. Actually, yesterday was beautiful. The last video that you might have watched on the channel or not, which is of the shopping center tour that did, it's like a mini tour, really. I was hoping that there was more of the shopping center open when I got there, and it wasn't. But I thought I'd do the video anyway. But beautiful day yesterday. I actually went to the football after that. Dinamo and Spartak were playing in the Russia Cup. One of the, I think it's a round robin, the Russia Cup. I'm not sure. It's not the Premier League. It's like a secondary competition going on through the year. And where I went to that shopping center, it was literally one metro station away, or at least I actually caught a bus. I walked across the road to the bus stop and I caught a bus down to the stadium and I went to the football. It worked out very nicely. So yeah, but very nice day, very nice evening. I watched the football. I got the metro and the train home, and it was a good day. That was yesterday. Today, I went out only in the afternoon to the shops, and now I'm here. So yeah, if you want to join the Telegram chat, so there is a channel and a chat. The channel is basically where I post things, and then under posts you can comment, and it takes you to a chat which has more than 1,000 people in it. And on most days, there's about 100 or 200 people active there. Not everybody's posting all the time. So it kind of comes and goes. And you're very welcome to chat to other people there. Everybody's very friendly, like-minded. There is no politics spoken in the live streams. So if you want to get political, perhaps choose another Telegram channel or somewhere else to watch the live stream, to follow it, let's call it. So yeah, 34 people live. I wasn't expecting lots of people, but I thought it's a good way to kind of talk about the channel, talk about the previous few videos on the channel as well. How much would a worker make in a week? Okay, James, that kind of varies quite a lot depending on the company you work for or the amount of hours. How much would a woodchucker chuck if a woodchucker could chuck wood? Worker make. Yeah, you're looking. The thing is, it's impossible to quote a number because when you then translate it to your currency in your head of the country where you're from, it seems very low. But the problem is the cost of living here is also low, and the outgoings that people have, or weekly spending or budget, is low as well. So the thing is, where somebody might earn 50,000 or 70,000 rubles, which is 500 or 700 US dollars a month, it may sound not a lot per month. I'm talking not per week. However, if that person lives in accommodation and they don't pay rent, all they're paying for really is water and electricity, which is very little. In our apartment here, we're paying probably $25 a month, maybe 30. I think let's call it $30 a month, water and electricity. It's $25 to $30. It goes up a tiny bit in winter because of heating. So yeah, the things like I'm not sure where you're from, James, but my mobile phone bill is only $6.50 a month for unlimited internet and phone calls and whatever you get with it included. So there is also, it does get very complicated, but there is a thing called white salary, gray salary, black salary. Most people who work in businesses have meals included, or there might be a canteen, or there might be some kind of food included. Depending on where the business is, you might get transportation as well to or from where you work. So there's a lot of positives or perks that come along with certain jobs that are not necessarily in other countries' job descriptions. It's very hard to quote, if you go to look at the poster outside, for instance, Kuzny Tochka, which is the Russian McDonald's, it'll say they're 60, 70,000 rubles. Maybe depending on how you start out, it might be 50,000 rubles or 49,000 rubles. But generally, most jobs that you're seeing in Russia, the salary is higher than what they might actually be paying because of the way it's structured. And then whatever's included as well. Depressed? Maybe that's depressed. Hello? Hi. You're welcome. I'm great. How's the weather in the wild east or the far east? Well, I'm on the western side of Russia. I'm actually in Moscow region. I'm not in Moscow technically. It's outside of Moscow. You'll hear that sometimes a lot in my videos. And then I get corrected when I say I'm in Moscow, not Moscow region. Yeah, the weather is beautiful. Today was about 21, 22. I think tomorrow is going to be a little bit cooler in Moscow, but still nice blue skies. It's going to rain basically, I think, Sunday, Monday. So I think David's sending some rain from Italy to Moscow for us. Love your honest content. Keep it up. The good work. Dollar Bill, thank you. I was watching Billions as well. I wonder if that's your reference to your name. I think you've been in one of the other live streams. Ahmed says, do I encourage or do I advise people to come to Russia to emigrate? I advise you personally to come on a holiday first. Come on a tourist visa. Come and see if you like it. Come and stay maybe in one or two cities. Go out and go and see different places. For instance, if you came to Moscow, go out into the suburbs. Don't just go to Red Square and think, I love this place, I want to live here tomorrow, Get a bit of a feel for how busy or quiet somewhere is. There's obviously smaller populations in other cities of Russia. I would definitely recommend coming on a holiday. Try to then figure it out after that. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you not? Is it completely different from where you live that you can't adjust easily? Some people may not be able to handle Moscow with 15 or 17 million people versus going to, say, Ufa or Yekaterinburg, where I was in a couple of videos, which is a bit over 1 million people population. That's still a lot for a small place. But if you compare it to 15 or 17 million, I mean, there's 6 million, they say it's between 5 and 6 million people a day ride the metro or the underground train in Moscow per day, which is staggering to think. When I think about that in terms of Australia's population, I personally wouldn't tell anyone to emigrate here until they've come at least once to see how they feel about it. Some people will love it and absolutely want to stay, and some people just won't get the feel for it. not knowing the language, it can be tough because people don't necessarily know English, even though you think, particularly younger people should, because they're learning in school. It doesn't mean they know English outside of school. And, I can go to my corner shop down in my building here, and the guy doesn't speak a word of English. But we somehow managed to communicate with each other. And all the years that I've known him, he's not even saying hi, yes, no, hello, goodbye. And, if you can't kind of adjust to that, it can be difficult. Why don't I get a real job in Russia instead of relying on your wife to support you? Wow, that's a tough question, Haley. Thank you. That's a very tough question. I rely on my wife to support me. Well, she has her own job. She has a nail salon in the building where we live. I think I've spoken about that a few times. She's been on a couple of videos. She really doesn't like YouTube. She really doesn't like being on camera and talking back to the camera. Not everybody can do that. And I don't want to force her in doing it. So that's the bit that's kind of tough with it. So she has her own job. She has her own money. She earns her own money from her job and things like that. She's done that well before I met her. And she's continued to do that now since we've been together and we're married. So I guess I'll have to get a real job at some point. Great Blue Russ, thank you. Typical. I associate with Australians using it more in American vernacular. Not so much, unless it's a swipe, as in you're so typical. Yes. So yeah, typical I use in a lot. So I what's interesting is if you've watched YouTube for more than, well, at least in the last couple of years, I've only had the channel 2 years, by the way. So if you've watched YouTube in the last 2 years and you've seen somebody, not my channel, use the word typical in a title, then they've took inspiration from my videos, because the word typical has a lot of meanings and a lot of answers to what is the correct answer to the word typical. And particularly when we do live streams like this and people from other countries, I don't know most people's country in the chat here, but for sure I know David's from Italy. If Vitali's here, I know he's here in Moscow as well. And everybody's answer to what is typical can vary a lot. And particularly where I do it for supermarkets, I'm using that word in supermarkets a lot because there is a lot of some chains of supermarket like Pitorichka. It's got the very famous number 5 out the front of the store. And there is 30,000 Pitorichkas in Russia. With Magnit, where I was in the last video, if you saw it, I went in there. It was at the new shopping center. And then I did a little bit more of a walk around in a previous video of Magnit. That is incredibly typical, like Pitorichka is. And there isn't a person in Russia that doesn't know Pitorichka, Magnit. There is a few others as well. There's probably about 5 or 6 main supermarkets that are essentially all of Russia in every city, big or small, especially now in more modern times versus Soviet times and then USSR times where there was more mum and dad style market shops and what they called rynoks, or small little convenience stores. And a lot of the supermarket chains just became bigger and bigger and bigger. It's to think of Magnit as the second biggest in Russia with 20,000 stores, I mean, that is typical. And anybody in Russia, no matter where people are watching this from or where they live, not necessarily even just people in Moscow, they have a Magnit, which is a Russian typical supermarket somewhere close to where they live. They would have a Pitorichka somewhere close. And then depending on the city you go to, for instance, where I was in Yekaterinburg, there was Monetka, or coin, or money is the translation. It's coin, Monetka. And that's a typical supermarket for Yekaterinburg and the Ural region of Russia. And there is actually a few Monetkas here in Moscow as well. However, that's typical to them who live in that region, whereas typical to me is the shops immediately where I live. Actually, today I didn't actually go to Magnet. I went to Pitorichka. There's actually 3 of them within walking distance of my house. 3 of them, and there's actually 5 in the town where I live. And one of the biggest viewed videos on my channel is the brand new one that opened by the train station, which is about, well, from here walking to it, it's probably more than 30 minutes walk. But I walked 5 minutes to the other one. So, and that is a typical supermarket. And for instance, if you would look at America as an example, I will use Walmart. I mean, that's a typical kind of a hypermarket. Walmart's its own thing, really, a big box retail store, but that is typical as well. And then where I've done Russian typical shopping malls, most of the shopping malls, like the one I did in the last video, if you haven't seen it yet, it's not a particularly long video, but it's what they're now calling a meeting place rather than a shopping mall. However, this shopping mall that I went to yesterday was 4 levels. They'd only open the first ground floor and -1 level, and then the upper levels they haven't even opened, which I was thinking they were going to have them open, but they didn't. And that's why I walked in the supermarket and walked outside where the park was, and it was actually really nice. I mean, I would have been happy even if I didn't make a video to walk in that area and then go down to the football and go about my day. But that's a Russian typical shopping mall. Actually, where I live, by the train station, which from here, again, it's about 10 minutes walk, we have actually a 3-story shopping center, which is that same meeting place style, what they're calling this close to home shopping centers, where it's within a reasonable walking distance of where everybody lives. And if anyone's ever heard of the word 15-minute cities, then that's a good example of that, where everything's within a reasonable distance from where you live. So, typical can be whatever it means to you is really based on what's your normal or what's your typical, right? But I say, Monsieur Mike, hello. I know you're also a long-time watcher of the channel. Did you see while you're in Moscow? How many do I see? European or Americans? Now, I wouldn't know if they're European or Americans unless they walked by me and I could hear them talking to hear accents. I mean, you can pretty quickly hear somebody that's not Russian when you hear someone talking. Yesterday or the day before? I was out the day before, and I'm pretty sure the guy was British and he had a Russian girlfriend or wife. Where was that? I can't remember where I was 2 days ago. And they walked past me, or literally and I could hear the guy talking English. So he was definitely British. I mean, there is definitely people here from different countries beyond Russia, but you just don't, unless I go out to more tourist kind of places, like in the center of Moscow, I would probably be able to spot them based on maybe what they're wearing and not looking typical, right? I mean, that's another way to say that. I mean, in the suburbs like this, I mean, I've met up with a few Australians that live here in Moscow a couple of times. Actually, about 2 weeks ago, I met a few of them at the pub in the center of Moscow. I mean, would I know that they were Australians? While we're in there having a drink, there was a guy from Sweden. Was it Sweden? Sweden, I think. Who was at the next table. And we just heard him speaking English. And then where are you from? What are you doing here? And things like that. So, how do they recruit for the army? I don't know how they recruit. I guess based on your skill, you could probably let them know what you're good at. I'm not sure how that works here. I don't know how it even works in Australia, so I couldn't answer that. Oh, right, Moschino Film Park. Right, the Wild East. It said the Wild West. Yeah, that was that film studio park. So that opened only on the 7th of September. So opened less than a month ago. And I think at the beginning of the video, I said 2 or 3 months. And I didn't click when I got there that it had only opened back on Moscow City Day, which is when I filmed that video at the park in the center of Moscow. And it's been operating for about 2 years since it originally opened for the use as a film studio and for television, movies. There's also huge warehouses there to store all the equipment and props, and the individual TV and film companies are based there as well. There is actually a hotel as well on that site, where I briefly walked in the food hall at the kind of end of the video. There is another building right next to it, which is actually a hotel, believe it or not. And that's designed around people staying there who are filming, because it's a little distance from Moscow. It's easy to stay there on site. Yeah, the Wild West. That it was called Cowboy Town, I think is what they called it on the sign, Cowboy Town. And I've seen, if I looked on Yandex Maps, and there's people's photos there where they've actually got some guys on horseback riding around there and things like that. Did I face any issues? Not at Oliver. No issues at all. It's actually easier each time, I think. Because I see the amount of stamps in my passport. Also, because I've got residency here, and then I've also got registration here. And then part of my registration, it shows my wife's name, that I'm married. So I think at the point where they see that, there's nothing that they can ask or question, because I'm completely allowed to be here. Yeah, the only thing is just a line. There's always a line at immigration, and someone in front of you has always got something going on with their documents. I don't even carry spare documents with me anymore. I used to carry kind of a few different papers and basically originals of things or copies of things, and I don't do that anymore either. Yeah, literally no problems. And I went, so the last trip was when we went to Bali and back. And then before that, I went to Uzbekistan, to Tashkent. I went on my own and did that. Love the ramen video. Yes, that was very cool. Actually, a Telegram. So lots of people in Telegram in the chat tell me about places to go and see and do in Moscow. And I'm more than happy to go and do that for videos. And I just turned up there, literally. I went inside first, had a walk around, and then I started filming. And actually, if you might be part of the Telegram chat, the lady, I think, either works there, or I don't know, she was doing social media and doing reels and TikToks and Instagrams. And she filmed me eating some food and me talking about it, and she put it on their Telegram channel, which is kind of cool. I'll go back there for sure. I won't need to make a video, because I just think it's a unique. They're going to open quite a few more locations that are bigger than that one, and they'll be 24 hours open. That one at the moment isn't 24 hours because of the residents in the building above. They said that they weren't happy that it was going to be 24 hours. What a good date to visit in December. Basically, it'll be cold if you're coming in December. So get ready for snow, -10, -20. It doesn't really matter. It'll still be cold and it might be snowy. So come as late as you can towards New Year, I guess. Then you'll get more of the feel of cold Russia. It's 39 Celsius. Is that in? Yeah, right. So 100, right about 105 Fahrenheit. Ooh, I miss that kind of warm weather. Then when you get to 40-degree weathers, like in Australia, we get a lot of 40-degree days, which is 100 Fahrenheit, and we don't like it. So, Dirk's from the Netherlands. Nice. I've been to Emshaven. I was there. That was my. Have I been to St. Petersburg? I've been twice, but I've only been there briefly for 1 day at a time. I went and filmed 2 videos on 2 different occasions. One was when I went to a bread factory, and then one that I went to a fish factory. So we can somehow search them up. You'll see them. 15 degrees in Holland today. Well, I guess Netherlands, Holland. Yeah, it's going to be a bit cooler the next few days. Today was a little bit nicer, and then tomorrow a bit cooler. I don't know the areas in St. Petersburg at all. I'm sorry. I literally went there. I got taken to the factories and got brought back, and that was about it. So, not at all. AC. There is another distinctive word that you use frequently. Literally. Yes, I do say literally. And when I go through, I try to correct some of the auto captions that come up. You can correct the spelling and put full stops and things like that. And I try to fix some of them, particularly words that are Russian words that I know it won't pick up the right spelling. And I do say literally because I guess if anyone knows the meaning, it's like, this is literally a mouse. It's literally, it really is. I'm sorry. It's interesting that people pick up on some of the words that I say. I do notice I say and, like I'm talking about something and I'm talking about something else. And look at this. And this is this is that, and this is something else. And I don't like saying and, but I'm trying to say it less, but it does still keep coming out. So because I don't script anything, I don't do any take twos, I don't stop filming and go back and do it again. Very rarely I'll do that actually. Oh, Aldi. Aldi in California. The rest too greedy. Kroger, I know Kroger's very well. High income target pavilions. Vons, I don't know about. Can't remember the ones that were in Texas. We used to just go to the Walmart. That was the main thing we do when we were in Galveston on my last cruise ship that I worked on. Awesome, thank you. 45, 20 miles and 45 miles away. Yeah. So Walmart would be very typical. I mean, I don't know if every person in America shops for groceries or supermarket food at Walmarts, but it's definitely an option, right? But then, like Elka said there, Kroger, Aldi. What is it? What is, in your opinion, typical Russian soup, salad, and drink? Now the thing is, I noticed somebody talk about borscht being Russian soup, but it's really Ukrainian, which would have been going back to Soviet times, which would then make it part of USSR and things like that. I don't want to get complicated with it, but for me, that's what my wife makes a lot. She either makes borscht or she makes a very simple, like a chicken. It's more like a broth, like a chicken or a beef broth soup, and then put some vegetables in there, some carrots, potatoes, maybe some onion. So yeah, for me, borscht would be probably the more typical one that I enjoy eating, and actually beef borscht with beef in it. Salad, I would say what we call winter salad or Olivia salad is typical. And then vinaigrette. So vinaigrette, for anyone who doesn't know, it's kind of a beetroot salad, which is red in color, and they call it vinaigrette. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody from Russia. So, yeah, drinks. I drink Chernogolovka. I have Chernogolovka mandarin. That's my typical soda that I drink, or fizzy drink. I really don't drink beer apart from an occasional beer, and I'll just drink whatever one's in the fridge or whatever. If I go out somewhere, whatever's on tap. That's my typical, if that makes sense. If you're really interested, I have some. Oh, it's not really going to be very nice on camera. I've got some mushrooms here. Mushroom, my wife. I really enjoy making mushrooms in the air fryer. What's it called? Air fryer. So my wife taught me how to do this, or I taught myself how to do mushrooms in the air fryer. That's not very typical, but I guess if you were to have it as a barbecue or shashlik, then it would be. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Which of Russian marketplaces do you like the most, and why? I don't use them. My wife uses them. She uses Ozon and Wildberries pretty much the only two. Occasionally Yandex Market, which is another pickup point. In our building downstairs, we've got Ozon and Yandex, Ozon and Wildberries. The Yandex one, actually, when I ordered my camera lens, if anyone knows, I lost this camera lens part for my camera, and this is the replacement one that I had to get from. It got delivered to Yandex Market. So yeah, that's one thing I've not done a video on, is this pickup point way of shopping in Russia. So for anyone who might know Amazon and how that works, you can shop online, it's delivered to your house. In Russia, very typically, we'll talk about typical again, people do shopping on a platform called, well, there's Yandex Market, there's Ozon, and then WB is Wildberries. And then when you do the pickup point, it's not to a physical address, it's to a business where they receive the packages basically round the clock. Then you can, when you get notified that it's delivered, you go down, generally it's in the building where you live or maybe the next building, and you go to a little counter in a shop and you give them the QR code, they'll scan it, they'll go grab your package and give it to you there on the counter. And then actually you could open it and look at it, and if you don't want it, you can give it right back to them. And then if it's clothing and things like that, they've got a change room where you can try on clothes, and then you can decide if you don't want them as well. You can then take them home and return them. They've changed the rules a few times about this to prevent people from buying it and not using it and taking it back, but definitely a great idea, because if you're not home, you don't have to worry. It gets delivered to that pickup point. You can go and pick it up after work. Normally they're open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. So yeah, the ramen place was different. Yes, very different. I've not seen that. I have seen the concept before in Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek. When I went there and I spent a week there, I noticed there was one of them very similar to that. And it was quite a bit bigger. And I walked in, I was a bit, what the heck is it? And then I walked out because I didn't really feel like ramen at the time, right? So I have seen it before, but not in Russia. And that is the first one in Russia completely. So yeah, it's very cool, very trendy, very hip. Somebody mentioned in my comments that it's a little bit expensive, which if you compare it to the Russian noodles, which would be dosarak, which is only, well, about 50, 60, 80 rubles. And then you just put the boiling water in, wait 10 minutes and eat it. I mean, these noodles at the place where I went to there are all imported. There wasn't any domestic products there, so you're going to pay a bit of a premium for that. But yeah, it wasn't mine. So someone mentioned I didn't say the price what I paid, and it was about 500 rubles, so about $5 for the noodles, and it was probably about $6, let's call it that, for everything. Very nice. A question: if Russians are more sociable now than 10 years ago. They are more sociable. I think the sociable part comes when you meet people and you get to know them, and when you interact with them, they become more sociable. I don't think I'm very sociable. I can chat to the person in line at the bus stop. I can talk to somebody sitting on the bench downstairs. Today, I didn't really chat to anybody. I just went to the shop and came home. Didn't talk to anybody. The lady recognized me when I did my payment, though, at the supermarket. But yeah, I can be social with anybody, and that's become something that I do always and for everywhere I go. I don't think it's really changed a lot, but that's just me. I think once you get to know people, they open up a lot more to you. If one day you could do a video at a 24-hour supermarket at midnight or 2 a.m. Love all your videos. Hope I'll be able to travel soon from Peru. Diego, hola, ¿cómo está? I don't really go out that late. It's very rare. Last night the football started at 7 p.m. So I was probably out of the stadium by about 9:30. I didn't even look what time it was. 9:30, 10 o'clock. I didn't get home. I don't know. I caught the metro, quite a lot of stops, and then the train, and then I ended up getting a taxi. Oh no, I didn't get a taxi home. The guy gave me a lift. This is how crazy it was. So when I got off the train in my town, Aprelivka, there's a 24-hour kebab shop or shawarma shop. And I was waiting to get a shawarma. And then I decided to open the app to see about the taxis. And it's only about, well, 10, 15-minute walk. But it's I when it's late at night, I always just get a taxi home. And the guy standing next to me while I had my phone open, he kind of glanced over and he saw that we live in the same building. So he'd got in the car and driven down to the shawarma place to get 3 shawarmas, probably for maybe his family. I don't know who he was ordering for. And he's like, "Oh, I can give you a lift home if you want." We were just standing next to each other. But yeah, I just don't go out late to do the midnight or 2 a.m. sort of video. What's this typical Australian TV show? Neighbours or Home and Away? They're the longest running soap style TV shows. Movies, I guess Crocodile Dundee, if you really want typical. How do I facilitate a place not open to the public? Everywhere I go is open to the public. That place, like for instance, the movie studios, outside of that open day or open weekend that just finished, you could have bought tickets or a tour of the whole place. And there's an organized tour that you go on with a guide that walks you around and things like that. So places that are not, like, for instance, well, it's not really many for instances. Everywhere I go is open. So it's not really any places that are not open to public. I guess if you talk about like the bread factory, I got invited to that because I made a video at a supermarket and I talked about the bread. And the person that is one of the bosses of the whole supermarket chain watches my video and is a subscriber. And he wanted to bring me to that same factory where the bread was made. So I got to see something cool. At the same time, I'd love to go to more places that are closed. I'd love to go to, for instance, the video at the Moscovich car factory. If you've seen that video, that when I went to the car dealership to make the video, I talked about that I'd like to do a test drive. And I got an email about a week later from somebody who asked if I'd like to come to the factory and test drive the car. And I'm like, of course. About 3 months later and about 40 emails later, I got basically a chance to go to the factory and got a tour by the factory manager. And then we went for a drive around the parking lot. If you've watched the video about the Moscovich car, it'll make sense. But I would not have been able to get that contact to do that without doing that original video. So it's a lot of things are in a lot of luck. And then a lot of things just fall into my lap. That makes sense. If Disney series are still being broadcast there in Russia, or rather Disney's still in the Russian market, hate sanctions. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you can, like on RooTube, you could probably find a lot of this sort of stuff. There's a lot of movie channels on our TV. My wife watches a lot of them movie channels, and there's a lot of American movies that are dubbed in Russian. But you can use software that basically gets around being able to open apps and programs that are closed in Russia or blocked. So it's all possible. But I get giving an error. Can you check your end? I don't think anything is switched off. 1 second. Monetization? No. Insert mid-roll. Schedule ads. Monetization is on. Customization is on. Subscribers on. Details on. It's meant to be travel and events. That's correct. Thumbnails correct. Playlist is correct. There shouldn't be anything that's not making it not work. I didn't do tags. I'll have to do that afterwards. That's very strange. I don't know why it's not working. Thank you, David. I'm having a hard time sending super chats or stickers. Are the hearts working? Engagement. I'm going to just click over here. Sorry, everybody. Chat away amongst yourself. And I'll just open my own live stream, which will be a bit weird. But I can do that, I think. I need to go to this. I don't know if I can send super chats in Russia. I think I can't. That's the only thing. Live. The share button is there. So that's strange, isn't it? Everything is switched on correctly. Does anybody else not see that? Donation alerts is definitely up and running. So that's very strange. By the way, thank you for 53 likes, everybody. If everyone is leaving now, I'm sorry if you're leaving. We recommend. What does it say there? Oh, there's no suggestions. Bit rate of 128. I can't change that. That's not anything to do with the video not working. That's very strange, David. If donation alerts work, then you can definitely use that, I guess. I've not done anything different. Ads Automator is off. Monetization is on. Ads Automator is a button that you can put ads in the middle of a live stream, which I don't like. Monetization is switched on. Public is on. Travel and events is on. So yeah. What did Lisa with Love do? That packages in Moscow City are distributed by robot. Have you seen those? Yes, it's those robots are all over Moscow. They're not only in Moscow City. They're in a lot of other districts or micro districts. There is a lot more of them in Moscow City because I think in the video she mentioned that there's more flat land, which I don't think that really matters. It's really crazy when you see them in winter when it's snowing and it's like snow everywhere and they're still trying to get through the snow. Yes, I've definitely seen them. They're not that. They're kind of cool and they're a bit gimmicky. They're not hugely practical, put it that way. It's more of a thing that Yandex has done, and Yandex Lavco, which is the store that I went to. You've seen that store video. Yeah, I've got a short. I've got one. If you go to my shorts on my channel, I did actually show one when I first started my channel. That was very random. You end up walking down the street and just see one, and you don't. That's why you see maybe in her video in the background people filming it, because they just get triggered when they see it going down the street. Thanks for the update on the economy. Welcome. I don't know how much I updated. I guess I'm showing you what shops and supermarkets look like and things like that. Crocodile Dundee. PO. You've done your due diligence. Me too. Watch that on Lisa with Love. Yes. She lives not too far from Moscow City. I've never met her in person. I did have a little bit of not a beef, but she made a video about 4 or 5 videos ago where she said that she's an immigrant in Russia, and that because she was living in Asia and she came back to Russia, she's an immigrant in Russia, which she's not. She's a Russian citizen with a Russian passport living in Russia. She chose to leave the country to do whatever she was doing in Asia, and then she came back, and then she came to Moscow. So I commented on that, and then she didn't probably pick up on what I said in the comment. Yeah, how do I earn money in Russia? I make videos on YouTube, and I rely on people watching ads that are shown on YouTube videos, which is called AdSense. and it then pays from Google and YouTube to the creator of the videos. Sorry with my hand, by the way. Crocodile is a popular movie from Soviet times in Russia. Yeah, it's old now. The Crocodile Dundee movies. I don't know when did that come out? When did Crocodile Dundee come out? It's probably the 80s. 1986. Wow. So it's 28 years old. Is that right? 86? 48. No, 38. Yeah, it'll be 40 years. Yeah, 38 years old is that movie. Holy smoke. 1986. Oh, there we go. What is the typical car in Russia in 2024? There is a lot more Chinese cars in Russia. There's a lot of Chinese car dealerships. The word typical for the car, I guess everyone associates Russia with the Lada and what was the Moskvich, the original ones, and then the Zhiguli, Zaporizhia. These are the older Soviet cars. I guess that's typical. I guess you could use taxis as a good example. Renault Logans, Volkswagen, or the Volkswagen, whatever the basic Volkswagen car is, Hyundai cars. There is more Chinese cars, but it really, people kind of said that when a lot of the foreign brands left Russia, that there'd be a big change, and then, wait till next year and every car will be Chinese on the road. But it's not. I mean, the change will take 10 or 20 years to be noticeable in Russia, because people will still buy foreign cars. They're still available. There's still dealerships you can buy them from. There's still secondhand cars for sale on secondhand markets. So, there's no real typical. If you go to the center of Moscow, the amount of BMW, Mercedes, Porsche that you'll see would be staggering. The amount of Mercedes Maybachs, G-Wagons that you see in the center of Moscow is unbelievable. But if you come out to the suburbs, it's more normal family cars. And then if you go out into the countryside or out to the Dacha territories, you'll see older cars. You'll see more Lada Nivas. You'll see more older model cars because people haven't bought new cars. Yeah, that's strange with super chats. I guess I don't get a lot of them on videos that I questioned that I didn't get one. So, what did you feel in the first minutes in Russia? So I'll tell you, I think I've said this story before, Lemon. The moment I realized I was in Russia was, I think it was maybe not the first day, but the second day, because my wife works, right? So she can't just take me everywhere on that first days I got to Russia, and she had to work. So we took the bus and then the train into the city, into the center. And then we came out. I knew exactly where we came out at Ochotny Riyad shopping center, which is then where you'd walk to Alexander Garden and then up the hill to the Kremlin, to Red Square. And my wife said to me, we weren't married at the time, I guess, but she said, "Welcome to Russia." And that was about 2 days after I got there, maybe 3 days. I can't remember the first couple of days, a bit blurry, but that's when I realized I was in Russia. And then essentially anytime I'm in the center of Moscow and go up to Red Square or Alexander Garden, the Eternal Flame, Bolshoi Theater, these very iconic places where FSB offices, the former KGB, and what in your head, I can still get that tingle and that goosebumps, if that makes sense. You can still get that. And, there isn't a day that I don't, forget that I'm still in Russia. It's easy kind of to not leave the house. Everything's normal. Everything's typical, and, where I lived in Australia, it's not typical that I've got 7 supermarkets in walking distance. In Australia, we'd have to get where we were living, my wife and I, we'd have to get in the car, drive to the shopping center to go to the supermarket at the shopping center, which was actually where we lived. We were fortunate. The nearest shopping center was 10 minutes down the road, but it's still an effort to go there, right? So that walking into Red Square, that was my first minutes in Russia. Please post something in the comments if you're here live. I see there's 70 of us watching. If you want to ask anything, did you watch the last video of the the last 3 or 4 videos would have been the shopping center video that was out today. The last few days before that was the movie studios. It's a bit of a shame with the movie studio video because there was a lot of that movie studios that they don't open because they're filming. So the sets are closed basically. When the movie companies come in, they basically close down the entire areas. And there was entire villages and small towns that they've replicated that they just close off. And if you were to go there on a ticketed tour, one of the areas might be closed off that you knew was available. And then the lady said there when I was at that aeroplane, there was a very nice lady there that we chatted for a fair while actually. She said that if you were to go down the hill, there's another whole town that they built on that, because it's basically hundreds of acres of land, that whole complex. So they've built towns that replicate different eras of Russia and the Soviet Union and things like that. And just the sheer size of what they've built it's hard to even feel on the camera. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Motorhome travel is not really popular in Russia, particularly because of winter. You don't see motorhomes here. You don't see caravans, like tow-behind caravans, which I guess for America, they're not a big thing versus the motorhomes. In Australia, the tow-behind ones. In Australia, it's popular. Not really the drivable motorhomes. You see them more in New Zealand. There's a smaller version one. In Australia, you kind of pretty much get like a Toyota Land Cruiser and then get a tow-behind caravan with the caravan. Yeah. It is a big deal in Australia because you can drive the entire circumference of Australia. It's called Highway 1 or H1. Here in Russia, it's not popular because there is no infrastructure for motorhomes. Yes, that's another problem. And then also winter, there isn't really that culture of doing it out of season. People go to their dacha. People go to, territories where you can rent, cabins. Like I made the video in Kaluga. Yeah, it is a big deal in Australia. They're called the grey nomads. Is the common phrase for retired people who do the trip around Australia. Normally it takes a year or even 2 years. If you were to do it, retired, you can take a year to trip the whole of Australia and go to caravan parks and places where you can park up, basically. And you spend as long as you like, or you just keep going to the next place. Sorry, I kind of misread and then I reread your questions. Lisa meant that she was an immigrant while she lived in other countries, and then when she came back to Russia, English is not her first language. Yes, but she speaks English, and she spent enough time outside of, I would imagine, I don't know, but I imagine she was teaching English if she was living for long periods of time in other Asian countries. And that's my other thing that I'm not a fan of is non-native English-speaking people teaching English when it's not their first language. I know it's hugely common, and there's a lot of people that do it. But yeah, Shell Bell, hello, by the way. You like my channel? That's nice. Thank you. Yeah, I just the way it came across, I listened to it about 5 times back and back and back and back. It's very rare I comment on people's videos, by the way. Very rare I do. But I did. So to move to Russia right now. I didn't say it's a good move. Russell is right. It's very good to move to Russia right now. I didn't say that. Merrick, I suggested come for a holiday. And that's actually a one thing, if anyone watches Sam from Sam's Russian Adventures, he and I've talked about this a few times, when I've chat to him, that there is a lot of other YouTubers out there and content creators who are telling people to come to Russia. And, if you're deciding to come to Russia, come. Whereas for me, I don't want people just to come to Russia because they might not like it. They might not enjoy it. They might get bad vibes. They don't like how things are. It's, and I'm not an advocate for that because, I'll definitely suggest and recommend and talk about things. Excuse me. And any question I can answer from the experience of me living here, I'll give. Dr. Kerr, hello. How's it going? Good evening. Still evening here in Moscow. When all the floors open to show us, I could do that, Fireflux, yes. There's actually the company that opened that shopping center has about, I don't know how many are actually finished, but they've got about 30 or more of them planned in Moscow. It's actually what they're doing, they're building the shopping centers on the land where existing cinemas were, and Soviet cinemas or theaters, where they had theaters or cinemas. And I looked at there's the link in the description of their website. And there's quite a lot that aren't finished or aren't built yet, because I was looking for one in my region and there isn't one close to where I live. Most of them are all somewhere out in Moscow region somewhere. The one yesterday was, quite close to Dynamo football stadium, which is really not that far from the center of Moscow. Metro station Sokol. And then actually it's 20 minutes walk to Avia Park from there, which is the biggest shopping center in Russia. Do I like winter? Yes, I do love winter. Yes, I love the snow. I love the cold. I love wearing my big, heavy jacket that I've got and my beanie and gloves. Yes, and I would be sounding strange that I say it like that, but the thing with Russia, you can look up the weather, and that will be the weather. It's very predictable, if that makes sense. Or at least the weatherman is anyway. He doesn't generally sway too much from what's correct. So when it's going to be minus 25 and cold, you know that already before you go out the door, right? You dress for it and you're prepared for it, and what you're going to do for your day, you work around that, right? So the M1 that's in England though, wouldn't it be the M1? I think in Australia it's the H1 or Highway 1. Snow geese, they are called in the US. Oh, snow geese. Oh, no, but snowbirds. Old people migrating from the north to the south in winter. Snowbirds or snow geese. I know it was snowbirds because because I was on the cruise ships out of Florida, and it was a very popular term. Many of the YouTubers telling people to come to Russia are paid Russia's agents. The situation with freedoms and rights is deteriorating in Russia. I think the other thing too is, the Western or the English-speaking YouTubers who are creating content have also realized there's an opportunity with migration agents and lawyers and commissions that can be paid by directing people to those migration agents and lawyers. And, if they can send 10 or 20 or 30 people over there, it's a good payday for somebody, if it all works out and so forth. But it's really especially recently, they changed a few of the criterias for being able to come to Russia on a temporary resident visa, and they've basically took away 2 documents that you don't need to apply. And that's not really a big change from how it was before. 2 documents is not a lot. So the amount of hoops you'd have to jump through was still a lot. And it's basically spawned this little micro industry of migration agents or immigration lawyers or relocation specialists. Is that the right word? I don't know. And it spawned a little industry that wasn't really here before. And people telling people to go to this person or that person, or they'll help you and things like that. Fireflux loves winter. Visit US sometime in 2025. Moscow. Visit the US visit us or visit the US sometime. Moscow, Ohio, Idaho, Yuma, Arizona. Oh, these are very hot places you're talking about, though. I want to go to that aeroplane graveyard. I think that's in Arizona, isn't it? We're going on between 2 American families living in Russia. They both have YouTube channels. I'm not sure which. I know there's quite a few. Oh, okay. I guess you're talking about the family that live. They live in Domodedovo or Kostroma, I think they talked about. And then they gave their money to the people that they were living with. And I guess the drama then would then go back to Expat American and his wife, who is actually dealing with migration, with helping people migrate to Russia. I mean, actually, when you watch the wife's video, I forgot her name, Chantel. And then she didn't mention anything about who they used to help them. And then in the husband's video, he mentioned Joseph's wife's name. And then they did a live stream. I didn't watch it. I watched the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes of it. And she came on as a guest on his live stream. His wife came on. She was in the next room. You can see in the background. And to basically defend herself of what happened, or what's happening, or what's still happening, because it looks very poor on her that, ultimately the person that you're using as a point of contact should be the person that essentially would make a lot of decisions for you and at least give you the best possible advice of what you should or shouldn't do. And, even now, for instance, where my wife and I are making decisions about things, I've got Russian friends here who I could also ask a similar question to and get their advice on the answer of something. I mean, it might be, we changed our kitchen tap, right? So I asked for suggestions of where we should buy one from. Should I go to this place, this place, this place? Which style of tap should I buy? And, you take all the advice, and then if you decide to do something otherwise, I don't know. Actually, Joseph, he's reached out to me a few times. I've not contacted or spoke to him personally, so I only know him through watching videos. And then the other family, I've only watched their videos. I have no contact with them whatsoever. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think that's the tough thing, where people have chosen to come here and then don't have, somebody behind them. This has been talked about on other channels before as well, where people are deciding they want to come to Russia, but don't have anybody here on the ground, so to speak. Whereas, for instance, myself, I have my wife. If you want to talk about other YouTubers like the Plastic Russian, he's a British guy living in the south of Russia. He has a Russian wife. So both of us have somebody who can do things that we can't do or we don't know about. Or our wives can find out and do it, right? Whereas if you got off the plane and didn't have anybody, or a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever it would be, it can be very, very tough. Even if I was to walk out of my door of my apartment here and not know which shop to go to, for instance, or I didn't know where to go and pay the bills for the apartment, for instance. I don't know where that office is. I don't know where this is. I don't know where that is. Whereas when you've got somebody here, it's easier. It's considerably easier. And that's, I've joked with my wife, if we needed to move like a cupboard in our lounge room, and Australian wise, you'd normally have your friend come over, or, somebody will come over and give you a hand, or like living in an apartment like this, where we were living in Australia, I could knock on the neighbor's door, they'd come around and we'd do it together. Whereas here, you don't really have that so much. Although we've got 3 neighbors in our landing here where we live, I don't know any of them. So it's tough, right? Some things can be very easy and some things are very hard. How do you decide which football club to support when you move to Russia? I don't technically support a club. I go to Dynamo because I can get access to tickets a little bit easier than I can to other clubs. I was lucky that I could go to the game at Khimki. If you saw the video, I did the behind the scenes video at the Khimki football stadium. So yeah, I don't really support a club specifically in Russia. I still watch any sport. Yesterday when I went there, I met a guy I've met every week when I go to the football, and I asked him if he's a supporter of Dynamo, and he's like, no, I'm a journalist. I'm independent. I don't have a team. And I said, oh, you're Switzerland then. Switzerland is famous that they're neutral country. And then he realized a few minutes later, he's like, yeah, I'm Switzerland. So even the guy there that was reporting on the game doesn't have a team that he supports. So yeah, I'll go watch any sport. Actually, the guy I sat next to yesterday suggested that I go to the rugby. They've got the rugby currently in season at the moment. So if I can try to get to a rugby match, I will. Nowhere is perfect, including the America, right? Yes. Actually, on Telegram, on a channel I follow, they're a little bit, I guess I wouldn't say they're anti-American, but they're not very positive about America in the news that they post. And they've talked about some of the different military bases in America, and some of the serving military are on standby because of what's happening in Israel. And they've asked permission to go home because they're from regions in America where they've got flooding and hurricanes and tornadoes and everything going on. And they were kind of refused being able to go home because they were on standby because of Israel. And they're not able to help their own country. And they posted about that, which is crazy story. PMA school they have. The place is called Pima. You can do a bus ride over the aircraft graveyard part. You can go to a decommissioned missile silo too. Wow, that'll be cool. Yeah. Oh, it's next to the Davis Monthyon Air Base. There you go. Wow. Yeah. No, I thought it was in Arizona. I guess it's maybe the same place. Yeah, that would be cool if I could ever get a chance to go to it. Okay, everybody. I think. What do you think? There's not a lot of people chatting, so there's not a lot of questions. Yeah, I guess I've kind of answered what the word typical means, and it makes a bit of sense. The one thing with apartment tours, which is different, it's not really different. Everybody would have a different answer for typical when it comes to housing and where you live and what type of accommodation you have. A huge amount of people in Russia live in apartments or flats. and it's a huge part of the Russian history. And a lot of people live in apartments, and I've made different videos in different types of apartments. I've made a few videos in this building where we live. I made one of the biggest videos on the channel is of a Khrushchevka, which is probably the most typical Russian apartment building there is in Russia, and actually in Eastern Europe as well. This panel house, this prefabricated panel housing that's built very quickly, 5 levels, and it created a massive amount of accommodation in Russia, and especially in regional areas, to bring people to the towns where the factories were. And a lot of it was social housing. It was given to people to live in, to, for accommodation. And that's typical. If I go into the center of Moscow, or at least the districts around the center of Moscow, there's different categories of a building. So rather than Khrushchevkas, there's Stalinkas, which were from different periods in the history of Russia. And they're more typical in the center. But then if I go on the train from here to Moscow on the suburban train, you go past some micro districts with, 20, 30, 40-story apartment buildings, and they're typical. So where I live here, there's, how many is there? Not too many, 5, 7, about 10 apartment buildings. Then the rest is traditional housing. If I look out the window from the kitchen, I just see normal houses and a normal skyline, if that makes sense, or not really normal for Russia because you're so used to seeing apartment buildings. Hello in St. Petersburg. It's almost Dobro Utro time. Now it's just after midnight, so definitely Utra for good morning. Yeah, sleep well and speak Russian to your wife. Yes, I'm trying to improve. I'm trying. My level of Russian is not very good. it's bad, I guess you would say. I can talk to the taxi drivers and the bus drivers. That's my extent of my Russian. What are good boots? We're waiting for the first snow in Moscow video. Oh, right. I still have my winter boots from last year. I realized that I brought my work shoes with me on a trip. It must have been a few years ago. I must have worn them to bring them over here because they're quite heavy. I have the work boots that I have, so I guess I could use them this year as well. You really need ones that have got good tread on the bottom, especially for ice. So yeah, something that's definitely non-slip, if that's such a thing. The more grippy, the better. Yeah, I think for me, it's more important a jacket. I guess shoes are important, but a nice heavy winter coat is, that way you can not feel like you're cold, that you don't want to be outside. That's the thing. So, yeah. Okay, everybody. I think I will call it right here. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream and the chat and conversation. And I hope you've learned something or a little bit more. If you haven't watched the previous few videos, so you've got the shopping center video to catch up with, the movie studio video, and then I think, was it before that, the ramen video? I guess the ramen store video. Oh, there was the supermarket video too. I filmed that right after I left the ramen store. I was walking down the street to end the video of the ramen store, and I noticed the balloons outside the Perikostok, and I went inside. It's actually not a new store. It was actually already there, but they closed it and fully renovated it and reopened it as a newly renovated supermarket, Perikostok, or Crossroads is what it translates to, which I think is a French supermarket chain, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but somebody mentioned that it's got ties to a French name. So, Fireflux, thank you so much. Dirk, you were here since the beginning. Thank you. Yeah, watch some of the old videos. If you haven't caught up on some of the older videos, there is now 500 or so videos on the channel. I am trying to set up a YouTube channel, but it will be basically the same videos. It won't be different videos. I'll basically be reposting them on YouTube. So if you are in Russia and you don't want the ads, I'm guessing YouTube does show ads somewhere in the videos. I've not watched a lot of YouTube. I've watched YouTube in Russia for the sport. I can watch live football, cricket, basketball, American football on YouTube. Actually easier than I was watching it previously. So although people don't talk very highly of YouTube, it's got its perks here and there. So yeah, I'm trying to set that up. Yeah, thanks everybody else. And then if perhaps you do want to help out the channel, donation alerts are always available. Super chats, super stickers, super everything's. There is also the phone number for Sberbank. If you want to use that as well. Can everyone use RuTube? I think you can. It would be rutube.ru. I imagine it opens in other countries. I don't know. But yeah, I did have a problem with it because someone else had set up a channel and I would imagine they were downloading and re-uploading my videos. So I've managed to get that channel deleted, and they've removed that channel. It's still there basically with no videos in there. But there's quite a lot of my videos posted on other people's channels. So now I'm going to get back in contact with their customer support. They're very good, by the way, in customer support for what I needed to do. And give them links to these reposted videos, because it's really strange how many people have took my videos and reposted them on their channels to gain views on their channels. So yeah, I guess just type rutube.ru and see if it opens. Yeah, I would imagine it works in other places, but I'm not sure. So I only found out about the sport thing recently when someone was telling me about there was a cricket match to watch. So yeah, thank you, Russell, for all your dear videos. Welcome so much. I'm not sure of your name. I can't read the Russian names unless I copy and paste. The thing is, I've got to have two different browsers. So I'm using, oh, it's gone crazy. There it is. I've really put a big strain on my computer tonight. Come on. Oh, Igor Seva. Здравствуйте, Igor. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Igor, for thanking for the videos. You're very welcome. Yeah, it's obviously a little bit more challenging to watch YouTube in Russia, but on our phones and mobile networks, it works fine. There is a lot of other YouTubers who put a lot of scare into people in the last month or more about YouTube getting blocked and YouTube getting closed in Russia. I mean, I'm still here. It's still working. We're still live streaming. So that's not gone or closed. It's still here. So, and a lot of people pushed people over to paid platforms like Boosty and Patreon and said, everybody join Boosty. Everybody pay for the content. And that way I'll always be here. Or that the people are saying this, everybody else. It's not one or two people. It's quite a lot of people that are using that speech as a way to, send people off the platform of YouTube, which I'm not a big fan of that getting said, but I guess everybody has their own way of dealing with things. So yeah, thank you for 81 likes. It's always amazing when there's way more likes than the amount of people watching the videos. Maybe some people click it open, like it, and then click it closed. But 81 is amazing, I think. This is very typical how many people watch the live stream. Normally it's about 70 to 100 or more. I watched a live stream a few nights ago about how to make YouTube videos or how to make better YouTube videos. And they've got 1 million subscribers, actually more than 1 million. And they only have about 200 people watching their live streams. So, yeah. Am I planning to get Russian citizenship? It's not really a conversation for now because it's probably about 5 years away. It realistically happening, unless you know somebody that can stamp it tomorrow. If I could find that person who could do all of the steps quicker, then it would all happen. But otherwise, it's quite a long way away. Sergey, hello. Здравствуйте. Have I noticed that YouTube works super good on all platforms since yesterday? I have been using a different browser for YouTube. So I've got... So what I'm streaming on now is... what's it called? My gosh. Edge. Microsoft Edge. But then I watch YouTube with Chrome. And then when I'm doing Zen or DZen, Yandex Zen, I'm using Firefox. So I haven't really noticed it because I'm using different browsers for different programs that I'm using. Because I've realized I've got to use one for one and one not for the other to get it to work nicely. So I'll have to check it out. I might open YouTube on the other browser and see if there's a difference. You always start your own OnlyFans. I don't think my wife doesn't like seeing me take my shirt off, so I don't think everyone else would want to see it. So I really hope it'll just be interesting with RooTube because it can pull over the videos and migrate them from YouTube to RooTube. I'm just curious about how the monetization works with that. And, you know, is it possible to make any money from it at all or not? Yeah, you definitely can get RooTube. I think, wasn't this a thing? Yeah, so there was a news story a couple of days ago, Shell, about this. That that Google, the App Store, is it Google that has the App Store? They apparently it wasn't available to Russians, but it was in the American App Store. And there was a bit of a meme news story in Russia the last couple of days that they got confused about who they're not meant to let it be visible to. Oh, thank you. Great videos. Yes. No, that's fine. I totally get what you're saying. Dear videos or great videos. Yes. Yeah, I can hold both passports if I wanted to. Yeah, you can have dual citizenship in Russia. Elena, thank you so much. Koshkaruva. I think I'll get that wrong. You use Brave. It's the best. Brave or Bravo? I would love to see you take a cruise and post it. I would love to do one. The ones that are like these 5 or 7 or 10-day ones are not cheap, if that makes sense. In terms of Russian prices for holidays, they're not cheap. If I could somehow get a press or what do they call these? Like a junket or fam trips that the travel agents get, I would absolutely love to do that. And that would be amazing if there was some way to do that. I have done a video on the river cruise in Moscow, which is the 1 or 2 hour ones. That was one of the first videos I made on the channel as well. And it's got like a picture of a riverboat on it, and it's got like a $1 with an arrow. Because I went on they've got the 99 ruble river cruises in Moscow that you can do for $1 basically. And they're the early morning ones, like the 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning bookings. These longer ones, I would love to do it. Absolutely would. I was on cruise ships for 19 years on passenger cruise ships. Yes. Yeah, if anybody knows anybody, that would be amazing. Yes. I don't know how, but if anyone wants to figure out that. Yeah, anybody that's got something in Moscow that can help me to do things. Even I've talked about the apartment tours many times. If anyone's willing to give me access to their apartment to do an apartment tour. And, it's not about, you, the person that gives me the keys to make the video. It's about showing that Russian typical apartment. And the one that I did at the Khrushchevka in Narofominsk, which was my neighbor's parents, they were more than happy for me to come and film that apartment. And it's not about me showing that on the video that I made in the family apartment in this building, there was a lot of comments about why the people have 3 irons. Because I didn't even notice it. I opened the cupboard and it was like one of their storage cupboards, and there was 3 irons on the shelf. So YouTube is not available in Russia on the App Store, on the Apple Store. Okay. What did someone send me the link to in Telegram? Maybe that was to one of the other app platforms. An airport video. I need to fly somewhere. That's the main thing to do that, to fly somewhere. You can film in airports kind of discreetly. You can't really film in them because it's a building of significant importance. But you can do it kind of discreetly. Like it looks like you're vlogging rather than you're intentionally showing things. I've done a couple of the VIP lounges videos. And then when I did the trip to Tashkent, Uzbekistan, I blogged from me getting in the taxi here to going over there. That was cool. All right. 90 minutes. I'm out of here. And then if you're in Russia or you're in Moscow, maybe it's bedtime for everybody, I think. Tomorrow is still a working day. And actually, someone commented on that. I don't notice, there's a lot of ladies in the shopping center. Where are all the men? I mean, yesterday, for instance, I was there, the game was at 7 o'clock, and I was there about 4 o'clock. Maybe 5 o'clock, actually. 5 o'clock I was there. And, someone said, oh, where are the men? So people do work in Russia, right? Ladies might have kids. I met a subscriber with her daughter. There was a couple of ladies at the very beginning of the video. You'll see a couple of ladies in a sun lounger in the background. I chatted to them for about half an hour before I started the video. And they were on a day off. They were out in the park, friends just getting together. There was a couple of men fishing at that pond, by the way. You will see men. And then when I went to the football, there was 22,000 people there. And 15,000 guys, ladies go to the football as well, but it's a very male-dominated sport, is soccer or football. So all the men that weren't at the shopping center were going down to the stadium. So, Sergey, thank you. Yes, keep the content coming. Stay safe and nothing but blessings. Thank you. I'll subscribe to your channel. I've been following you for some time now, and I really enjoy the content. Seeing in Russia, thank you so much. Yeah, lots of new people in the chat tonight. Yeah, I hope I don't know what the next video on the channel is going to be. Well, I do, but I don't. So I've got a couple of options of what we could put on there. I went to the Children's Railway about a month or so ago. If anyone knows about that, there's a railway in Russia that's run by children. And I went there. I'm just not sure how the video will come out, but hopefully it's good. So, yeah, okay. I'm out of here. 89 likes. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you in another video. Bye. Bye.